Thank you, Chair Murray and Ranking Member Burr. I really appreciate this hearing, and I appreciate the bipartisan focus on retirement security. I think it's important to note that we know that the typical Black and brown family has significantly less wealth than a typical white family, and this is very true for Native families as well. And it's also true that retirement and pension policy is really complicated. It's complicated for policymakers, it's complicated for people who should be benefiting from these retirement products, and the details matter, right? Because they can have a huge impact on a person's financial security and our efforts to address wealth inequality in our country. So, Ms. Hounsell, I'd like to bring up with you a very specific example of what this looks like for tribal members living on tribal land. So, for many years, tribal courts have successfully handled family law cases, including Native families, adjudicating difficult questions around custody and alimony and more. And tribal courts are often the first choice for tribal members who have the choice of resolving their disputes either in tribal court or in state court, but they choose tribal court. But so here's the specific problem. Under current federal law, orders from those tribal courts about how to allocate retirement plan assets in a divorce aren't recognized. Only state court decisions are recognized. And so what this means is that in many cases, a Native family needs to go to state court for relief. Native women, in most cases, would need to go to state court for relief instead of the tribal court where they reside. Or what often happens is that one party simply isn't able to access the resources that they are due from their former spouse's retirement plan. And more often, of course, than not, that is a woman who is left much worse off. So this seems like an unfair limitation on the courts of these sovereign tribal nations, and it hurts Native families. So Ms. Hounsell, can you just tell me what you think about this issue and how you see this issue?
Well, I mean, I think Quadros, we could be here for hours talking about those issues. But what I remember from our work in New Mexico was that there was no law sort of linking the tribal court with the state, and so you had to decide like where you would have your divorce, which could be harmful in many ways. And the Retirement Equity Act of 1984 was where Quadros were first, instituted. And I think if we're waiting for the states one by one to be passing laws or doing something to fix this, then really we need a legislative fix, a federal legislative fix.
Well, thank you. I agree with you. I think that sort of doing a series of one-off state-by-state resolution of this just ends up creating more complexity, makes it, and something that's already really hard for people to understand to begin with, including this senator sometimes.
Yep.
I think that makes it more complicated. So it sounds like you would agree that this is an important issue that it would be good for Congress to take up and try to help resolve.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just also stay with you. We were just talking about how women generally face a loss of significant amounts of family earnings and retirement security in the face of it when they are confronted with a divorce. And a lot of times, current law has loopholes that allow one spouse to transfer or even hide retirement plan funds without the permission of the other spouse. This is one of the reasons I'm so glad to be a co-sponsor of Senator Murray's Women's Pension Protection Act to help address this unfair transfer of wealth. Could you just comment on this legislation and why you think it's important?
Yes, I'm not really familiar with that provision, but I do know that I think there's a GAO report that's going to look into all of those issues. And when you work with women, you get everyone has a story. Anyone who's gone through a divorce has a story. And so I think it's complicated in so many ways that we really have to make sure that we're taking a close look at, what the solutions are for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think this is particularly a place where being careful and thoughtful and diving into the details to make sure that these policies deliver the result that we all can probably agree on, both for Native women living in tribal land and also for Senator Murray's bill is a great example of that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Rosen. Thank you, Chair Murray, for holding this bipartisan hearing, and to you and your staff for their work crafting bipartisan retirement legislation.